Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so great to be with all of you today. We're live on Rumble, live on Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Patriot TV, X America News. We are on Facebook. We are on Substack. We are on YouTube, actually evading the algorithms. No censorship for a while on YouTube, which is super exciting. We're rolling out a marketing plan for YouTube next week. So hopefully we'll begin to utilize that market as well. But just platforming the Shannon Joy Show in every conceivable way possible. Also on Pickaxe. So great to see Jeff Dornick posting out about Pickaxe. They're doing so well. And this is the social media platform that I think I'm going to be choosing in the next 12 to 18 months as I reduce my footprint somewhat on Twitter. We really need very strong human-focused social media applications. And Pickaxe is going to be, in my opinion, one of those very important free speech platforms. So we're going to have more to tell you about all of that. But thank you to the audience at Pickaxe. So glad to see all of you. Of course, you can get the Shannon Joy Show at your leisure anytime on any of the podcast platforms. So iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, you name it, we are there. Thank you to everyone who has gone to theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com. That is my independent website. You can support the Shannon Joy Show there with a monthly contribution. Right up in the right-hand corner, we are independent and we depend on your monthly contributions. For those of you who are contributing $5 or $25 or even more, to be honest, thank you so much. We could not do this without all of you. And of course, thank you to our sponsors. Today, you're going to hear from Colonial Metals Group. You are going to hear from the Satellite Phone Store, sat123.com/joy. Of course, Native Path and PCM and Associates. I am so sorry. I am late today. I know it is inexcusable. 12:15, super late start date. Annie's in my ear like, Shannon, don't mean to hurry you, but it's like 12:10, 12:11. And let me tell you, at the Joy household right now, you guys know I have 3 children, a husband, a 3-legged cat, a bunch of plants. They're all home right now. It's summer vacation. My husband works in the school system as a psychologist. He's home as well. And I need to build in like an extra hour every morning to scream at my children, yell at my husband, make them clean things up. They literally suck the time out of my morning routine every single morning. And so I think I've been late consistently all summer long. So while I love having all the little rugrats home, and they're not little anymore, 19, 17, and 13, I love having them there. I'm not going to be so sad when fall comes around and I get my morning routine back. And as you guys know, my morning routine, I mean, it utilizes Native Path products, the collagen, the protein, the hydrate, and you guys are going to hear about that today. I had a fun conversation with my son, Jack, 19 years old, beach volleyball player. In fact, his beach volleyball team won the national championship last year. So he spends a lot of time out west in California playing and, training. He loves the Native Path products. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later in the program. You guys look fantastic on the live chat, the most amazing, friendliest. And yeah, you're not afraid to yell at me if I'm late. CM 1968. It's okay if you're late. Don't make it a habit. Okay, CM 1968. I hear you. Mav 2022. Shannon, love you, but you're always late. LOL. The beautiful, amazing Inez Annie Cyrus, she's the producer of the Shannon Joy Show. And I really thought, she is a pro, like a professional. She starts when she's meant to start, on time every single morning. There's no lateness about Annie. I really thought that Annie was going to rub off on me and, whip this show into shape so that we would get started every morning at a reasonable time. And I'm afraid I may have rubbed off on Annie, poor thing. Like, she's very nice about it, like start time, finish time. But I'm like, I don't know, a feral cat. I'm like a free range chicken. It's really hard to pen me in. You guys know this. It's part of the deal with being independent and having to do this my own way over the past 12 years without any guardrails, self-promoting. Be My Valentine says, hey, Shannon, it's early for you. Okay. And CM 1968, congratulations to Jack. Thank you so much. So proud of all my little athletic children. Keeps them off the sex, drugs, and the rock and roll. People are like, is it worth it? All the time, all the money, all the travel, because you guys know we're all over the country for beach volleyball with all 3 kids. I'm like, absolutely. I'm in the car with my kids. I'm on the beach with my kids. We're traveling. They're with me all the time. And, keeping them busy kind of keeps them out of trouble. And the family time, it's just, I can't believe my husband plays beach volleyball. I love beach volleyball. I played when I was, a kid and in my collegiate years and early 20s, loved the sport, and it's great. Yes, sports keep kids out of trouble. Just keeps them busy, and it's healthy. It's good, clean fun. We should be sponsored by Native Path, like my kids as volleyball players, because they use the hydrate, they use the protein, they even use the collagen. And yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. You guys see the headline for today's show. We are welcoming into the Joy Virtual Studio, really important show today, Dani Pinter. She is Senior Vice President and Director of the Law Center for the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. She has a direct line to many of the victims, especially the victims of the Tate brothers. And we're going to talk about the issues of sexual exploitation and sex trafficking here in the United States of America. Headline today on the show, Trump inexplicably, is set, we're seeing the reports, to pardon Sean Diddy Combs. We're going to have an exclusive with Dani Pinter, but should we be surprised, right? Trump loves to protect his pimps. And this is the big orange gorilla in the room. And the big orange gorilla is a predator. This is now not an anomaly. This is not a one-off. This is a pattern of Donald Trump protecting child sex traffickers, pimps, and pornographers. A Deadline exclusive, and this was reported yesterday, has reported that an unnamed source within the Trump administration is revealing that Trump is seriously considering pardoning Sean Diddy Combs should he be convicted. This is just unbelievable. And yes, this is an unnamed source in the White House, but here's the kicker. When Deadline reached out to the White House for a statement about this unnamed source, the White House issued a statement back saying no comment. Like, this would be a moment for Donald Trump to stand up in front of a podium, or an administration official to stand up in front of a podium, or release an official statement saying, oh, hell no, there's no way. We have enough to deal with in this administration. We have enough to deal with in this country with the health crisis, the economy, and geopolitical upheaval. We're not going to spend any time even thinking about pardoning a convicted child sex trafficker, someone like Sean Diddy Combs. Like, this is so easy. This is so basic. It is unfathomable that Donald Trump and his administration have chosen no comment for this. This is an easy one, okay? Trump has now advocated, and we have reported this here exhaustively on the Shannon Joy Show since just his latest administration. He has now advocated and covered up for Epstein's child raping clients. There are thousands of victims. This has been acknowledged by Pam Bondi in her memo. So we know there are victims. We know that Jeffrey Epstein could not have abused all of those victims. So there is a list of predators. There are people who are named in these Epstein files who have harmed and abused children sexually, right? Donald Trump and his administration not only not pursuing the release of these documents through the Bondi memo, lying to the American people, but now shaming his own constituency base, telling them to get over it, that, referring to those who are criticizing him as ignorant, saying that this is all fake news, that this was all created by the Biden administration. It defies logic, common sense, doesn't pass the smell test, yet they are actively gaslighting the country right now. And again, protecting child abusers, child sex abusers. Just in the past couple months, we also know Donald Trump sent an official envoy to advocate for the release of the Tate Pimps. That was Richard Grenell. Has Donald Trump fired Richard Grenell? Has there been any disciplinary action? It was Richard Grenell that went over to Munich and strong-armed and muscled his way into Romanian officials to convince them to release the Tate Pimps to the United States of America, where Andrew Tate proceeded in I believe it was Nevada, to sexually abuse his own girlfriend, who then filed a criminal complaint against Andrew Tate here in the United States of America. That was after he was run out of the state of Florida by the Florida Attorney General, because they were going to bring charges or look into bringing charges, criminal charges against the Tate Pimp, right? So Donald Trump now aiding and abetting the abuse of women here in the U.S. through his special envoy, Rich Grenell, and coming to the aid and the rescue of the Tate brothers, who are now under investigation in 3 countries, facing dozens of criminal charges, including the rape of an underage girl. Okay, so why is it that Donald Trump continues to protect pimps and child sex traffickers? Why is this a pattern? As I mentioned, the big orange gorilla in the room that no one wants to talk about. They want to talk about sex trafficking. They want to talk about the children. They want to talk about Epstein. But somehow in conservative circles, Donald Trump always escapes scrutiny when he's the guy. Do you know how many dozens of pictures of Donald Trump and Sean Diddy Combs are out there partying it up together? It's unbelievable. So is anyone shocked? Is anyone surprised that he would support, according to this reporting in Deadline, that he would support a child sex trafficker? The truth of the matter is that Trump is a predator. He always has been, and I think it's time that we accept that. The fact that he continues to support and protect these predators is completely unacceptable. And anyone out there in conservative media, anyone who calls themselves a Christian or a conservative, or they believe in saving the children, who won't acknowledge this, is they're not doing due diligence, and they're being very deceptive with their audiences as well. So yeah, unbelievable. We're going to hit on a lot of topics, though, with Dani Pinter. Again, she is with the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. There's a lot of news out there. We're going to talk about the Epstein case and how it illustrates the need for sex buyer accountability. It's not good enough to put the pimps in jail. It's not good enough to prosecute the pimps. It's actually the people, the clients, the buyers, the ones who are committing the acts of rape against children. Yes, they should be put in jail too. And so there's a lot of work to be done there. I'm sure that Dani's going to have a lot to talk about that. Also, some good news. The Supreme Court is upholding an age verification law to protect children from harmful pornography, among other things. So it's going to be a very important conversation with Dani Pinter today on the Shannon Joy Show. I just want to alert you guys also to my top headlines of the day. They're listed in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. Of course, we have that piece from Discourse. Trump is now seriously considering, unbelievable, a pardon for Sean Diddy Combs ahead of sentencing. The White House officially says nothing. No comment on this, which is inexplicable. We also have good news, the case of a 14-year-old vaccinated child. They were vaccinated against their will, without the knowledge of their parents. His case will head to the North Carolina Supreme Court. The ruling from this judge moving this ahead is excellent. All right. It means that we are moving forward in this area of bodily autonomy. They tried to hide under the PrEP Act liability shields in this case. The judge said, no way. There is such thing as bodily autonomy and informed consent. and this case is moving forward. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that case as well. Very bizarre Health and Human Services release of a vision for the future promoting AI in health. And also, you guys this is all over Twitter yesterday. Trump is launching the digital health tech ecosystem to bring healthcare into the digital age. They don't want pens and papers. They don't want clipboards. They want all of your files, all of your information fed into the AI machine, into the cloud, so that they have all of your information. They're saying that this is moving us into the 21st century, but they're partnering with OpenAI, Amazon, Anthropic, Apple, Microsoft, hello, Bill Gates, AI, and Google, right? So they released a vision for the future video promoting AI assistance and in health, QR codes at doctors' offices, and AI that helps you manage your medications. This is one step. Jay had a great post here on Twitter. It's not about efficiency. This is about replacing human judgment with algorithms, collecting and tracking your private health data, and making you dependent on a system that can deny you healthcare with a keystroke. When AI and QR codes run healthcare, convenience comes with control. Thank you, Jay, on Twitter for that comment. Toby Rogers also had a comment. This is the vaccine passport ushering in the health passports, the vaccine passports in on the DL. We said, oh, hell no to Biden when he tried to do it. But tragically, because Trump is the Trojan horse for technocracy, when Trump is in power, conservatives, medical freedom activists, they cheer for this. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. is at the fore of this as well. Tragic. That video that he released, super creepy. If we have time at the end of the show, we'll play that video for you. But again, we linked that to the technocracy.news has a great overview of this story. The technocrats sweep U.S. health officials, tech executives, Trump and Bobby Kennedy Jr. to launch the data sharing tech plan for your health. Yet another thing that we are going to have to resist. And this is, by the way, why I don't really go to the doctor's office. As I mentioned, I'm a free range chicken. All right. Like there is no, health industrial complex for this gal. The further I stay away from it, I think the healthier I am. So we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back in, we have Dani Pinter. She is with us here in the Joy virtual studio, ready to go. And we are going to hit some of these topics of the day. Absolutely bizarre, just bizarre, from the Tates to Epstein to now Sean Diddy Combs. What is going on with this administration and their protection racket for these sex trafficking rings? It's inexplicable. Cannot wait to hear from Dani on this and other things. Keep it tuned right here on the Shannon Joy Show. We'll be back in a minute. Blackout, brownout, natural disaster, alien invasion, government created disaster, you name it. If you are prepared, then you will not be afraid. And it is only when we are afraid that we are vulnerable to the manipulation and the coercion of this hostile government. And so one of the things that I encourage to this audience and for this audience is to be prepared. Satellite Phone Store has everything you need, from solar panels to generators to Faraday technologies that will protect your devices from a potential EMP attack and also protect you from EMF radiation from the 5G, the 4G, the 3G, and all of the Gs, right? They have everything you need for communication, so many different satellite phone packages for all of your needs. They have great monthly plans. And if you use the promo code JOY, you will get 10% off your annual fee and a free satellite phone. So go to sat123.com/joy today. That is sat123.com/joy today. Use that promo code JOY for all of your purchases. It's always going to get you that nice, robust 10% off. You guys know that one of our amazing sponsors is Colonial Metals Group. We could not bring this show to you, this expansion, this studio, the ability to bring Annie in to produce the show. This is all because of some of our key sponsorships. And Colonial Metals Group has been a partner with the Shannon Joy Show. They have helped so many of you begin your gold and silver journey, whether it's through the purchase of physical gold and silver or through an independent IRA backed by gold and silver. They can do transfers. They can take a 401k and transfer a portion of that or the entire thing into an individual IRA backed by gold and silver that you direct, right? So you have all the control over it. It is much faster and much easier than I ever imagined. It took less than a couple days for me to get mine set up, and they are standing by. They are ready to talk to all of you about how you can begin to protect your retirement. colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That is colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Please use that URL. Make sure that you tell them that Shannon Joy sent you. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Before we get to Dani, I do want to talk about Native Path products, and particularly Native Path collagen, which I use every single day. It is one of my not so best kept beauty secrets. Keeps the hair looking great, the skin looking great, replaces that collagen. I'm almost 50 and my body is not producing as much collagen as it did when I was young. That's why people age. So this is why it's so important to regularly put that collagen back into your system. This is why I use Native Path collagen. Speaking of being a free range chicken, one of the reasons that Native Path products are so great is because they have very, very happy cows. Whether it's the protein, the collagen, Native Path products are the cleanest. They are happy cows, free range. They only eat grass, never fed wheat, no whey, no soy. And it is the cleanest, best product at the lowest price point. Right now, Native Path collagen, it's about 60 cents per serving, which is about $21 per canister with the Joy promo code. If you go to getnativepathcollagen.com/joy, that's getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. The offer is unbelievable. And we have scoured. My son, Jack, came down today. He said to me, this actually happened. He says, Mom, I'm in the best shape of my entire life. And it's because he loves the Native Path products. He uses the hydrate every day and the protein, again, those very, very happy cows for the protein. And he said to me, when I go back to college, you need to pack up an entire box of all of the Native Path stuff. They have creatine now too, which he wants to use, and ship me off to college with it because he wants to get his entire team on it. He loves these products. And as a college kid, they are all looking for the best quality products at the lowest price point. And this is why I always go back to Native Path. This is why you guys will always go back to these Native Path products. Nothing fancy, no fancy packaging, just the best stuff at the best price. Get nativepathcollagen.com/joy right now. 45% off stock up sale. Make sure you get that in-house and put that collagen back into your body. So thank you to Native Path. Without further ado, I want to bring in to the Joy Virtual Studio, Dani Pinter. She's been waiting patiently. So great to see you again, to have you here on the Shannon Joy Show again. Dani is actively representing some of the victims of the Tate Pimps. That's my term for them, self-admitted pimps, pornographers, and women abusers. But Dani is the Senior Vice President and Director of the Law Center for the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. This was founded in 1962, and this organization is the leading national nonpartisan organization exposing the links between all forms of sexual exploitation, such as child sexual abuse, prostitution, sex trafficking, and the public health harms of pornography, which I want to talk with you about today, Dani, because sometimes pornography, the industry in and of itself, gets swept under the rug. But there is a grooming process that happens and that I think has been well established in the United States of America. Pornography has really taken this country in a vice grip. And from the bottom up, that grooming process anesthetizes us to the horrors of child sex trafficking, human sex trafficking, prostitution, and all the things that we're dealing with today. So it is a root cause. And I hope that you can help educate the audience on it's not some innocuous, innocent thing that people can choose to do in the privacy of their own home. It's like it is part of the industry. So thank you for all the work that you've done. How are you doing today?
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, you're speaking my language, so I can't wait to dive into these topics with you, but it's great to see you again.
Amazing. First, I just want to get your comments on the recent news of the day, and then an update on Andrew and Tristan Tate, their multiple criminal charges in multiple countries. And then we'll get into some of these topics, the need for sex buyer accountability, especially in light of the Epstein case, and also a very disturbing new app that every parent needs to know about. It's an artificial intelligent app that allows people to kiss anyone they want. Very disturbing, very creepy, and they're targeting your children. So we'll get into that towards the end of the show. But let's start with this report that came out yesterday from a news organization, Deadline.com. Trump is now seriously considering a pardon for Sean Combs ahead of sentencing. And the White House, when asked about this, their official statement was nothing to see here, when they could just say, this is absolutely false. This is not true. We're not considering this. What are your thoughts on that? And also the recent Pam Bondi memo acknowledging that there are thousands of victims, but saying that there's nothing to see here in terms of who victimized those children. So those two topics, news of the day, your thoughts on those two.
Yeah, I mean, I was completely shocked by the reporting that the White House would at all be considering a pardon for Sean Combs. I mean, you have to ask why. Why would they? Because, Sean Combs, there is extensive evidence of his violent and predatory behavior, regardless of his ultimate conviction. We all saw the video of him beating Cassie savagely in the hotel. So, I mean, usually when you think about a pardon and when it would be just and when it would be merciful is if someone is potentially sentenced very, very harshly for a crime. But we actually have the opposite here, where Sean Combs, we have overwhelming evidence. The prosecution presented extensive evidence of criminal activity, and he was only convicted of the smallest of the crimes he was charged with, and so will likely face a very light sentence. So why would you consider a pardon under those circumstances? It just feels like his celebrity alone would be the reason for it, which is very unjust and extremely unfair to the victims, in my opinion.
Dani, were you satisfied with the conclusion, with the charges and the conclusion of that court case? Do you think that the prosecution made a case that should have resulted in more convictions and stronger sentencing?
Absolutely. I think the prosecution did a really good job. And in my opinion, they met the standard. I mean, they showed that, all they had to show, I think what I said from the beginning of this case with Sean Combs is that it's going to be a bellwether. It's going to be a barometer of where our nation is and where, the average everyday citizen is in understanding sex trafficking. And unfortunately, I think it showed that we don't, that the average person in America does not understand what sex trafficking is, because all the prosecution had to prove is that at least one time, Sean Combs coerced Cassie or Jane Doe to engage in a commercial sex act. I think they more than demonstrated that. And, coercion is the toughest element, but they essentially just needed to show that through a pattern of behavior, he would have made these women fearful that if they didn't comply with his demand, even one time, that they would be harmed. When you have him beating them savagely, and even if you think about what we saw with our own eyes, the hotel video, when he dragged her back to the room, it was back to a freak off. So even the attempt to force her with that violence to engage in that freak off would have met the statutory elements, in my opinion. And then you have all this testimony of employees procuring drugs for him and preparing the rooms. To me, that met RICO. So the fact that the jury was confused by, the nature of these relationships because they were romantic, and that sometimes the women, they stayed with him and went back and were confused, that was disappointing to me, really disappointing. And I think he should have been convicted of all that he was charged with.
And that is the key element. It's the lover boy method, which we'll get into a little bit later. And I think that's where, if you are pinpointing the difficulty, the misunderstanding of the population at large about how these pimps and these abusers instill fear and use a very, very abusive, psychologically abusive technique of making them fall in love, making them think they love them, bringing them back in, but also instilling fear. I mean, it's psychological warfare and abuse used against these women. And a lot of people are like, well, they were his girlfriend. I hear what you're saying there. Really disturbing and really disappointing that the jury was confused in that way. And I think you're right. We have a lot of work to do. Inexplicable that this administration, given the videos that you mentioned, would even align with this person in any way, shape, or form, let alone issue a further pardon, is outrageous. And it seems, Dani, tragically, that this is a pattern of this administration. You and I reported months ago when Donald Trump sent Richard Grenell, special envoy to the President of the United States of America, to Munich to strong arm Romanian officials to allow the Tate brothers to come back to the United States of America. It was a huge scandal. Donald Trump acknowledged that it happened and then never said anything about it. Then we have the empty bonding memos when she came out, used social media or social media influencers to wave around empty binders full of no new information. And then the interview with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino saying that Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself and there's no there. And then culminating with the bonding memo saying, well, there are thousands of victims. However, there's nothing here. We're not moving forward. Case is closed. Then we have Donald Trump on the record multiple times, shaming people who are concerned about this, mocking people who would like to get the bottom of this, and basically reaffirming her, saying, case closed, this is over, we're done. In terms of Epstein, where does that leave you? I mean, we are going to talk about the buyers, the purchasers of these children, of these women, but what are your thoughts on the closure, the attempted closure of this case by the Trump administration?
Well, what you mentioned it, but one of the most disturbing parts of the bonding memo to me was that it did confirm there were thousands of victims. That was confirmed. So, and that I don't think that we knew that before. I mean, we're aware of dozens of victims who have been public, but we're not aware of thousands. Over 1,000 victims. That is new, significant information. And how does that fit in with the notion that no one else will be prosecuted? It's those two things that trouble me. But I think what everyone's frustrated with is the lack of transparency. I mean, I'm not saying anything new, everyone's saying that, but I want to tie it to those pieces particular, because the Epstein was operating this exploitation ring, in my opinion, for decades. We know this, right? He got the sweetheart deal back in 2008. That's a long time. So there was many administrations before the Trump administration that ignored Epstein and covered up for him. And it went on and on and on. So it could be that the reality is much of that evidence is lost and that it just simply isn't with this administration now, or is so stale, or the victims are sadly nowhere to be found. So prosecuting is actually just not practical. If that's the case, I just wish they would say that. I think it would be, that's what we all want to know, is the truth, and be transparent that this isn't about a desire or a lack of desire to hold accountable those who participated, or a lack of willingness or a cover up. It's that, unfortunately, the sands of time have made much of this evidence unusable. Maybe that's the case, but they aren't saying it. So now we're left with trying to understand how there could be thousands of victims and believing that only Epstein is the perpetrator of that. That's not, I don't think that rings true. I don't think it feels practical that only Epstein is the predator of thousands of victims. I mean, there must have been others involved, at least facilitating him, at least aware of it, which would be a crime. Right. So why are we not holding them accountable? And if there are sex buyers, if there were other individuals engaged in the abuse of these victims, it is a travesty that they would not be held accountable.
We featured Nick Bryant, who is one of the foremost experts on the Epstein case. He actually broke this case. He was the guy who broke the Epstein's Little Black Book and the flight logs many, many years ago. And he mentioned, and I did not know this, the New York Times has already listed, there are 6 named buyers. There are 6, they named them. And so they must be in those documents. And I would say, Dani, even if the evidence is stale, even if they can't find some of the victims, just bring the cases. At least file them, try to prosecute them the best that you can to at least get this moving, even if it's a long shot, even if it's going to be a difficult case to prove. I think just opening up those files and letting people see and then beginning to wade through them is a process in and of itself that could help lead to a better understanding of these type of organizations and hopefully get some convictions. I agree with you. I think it's just horrifying. It's horrifying. Yeah. Given the rhetoric on the right, particularly from this administration and people like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel over the past 2 years, the hyperbolic rhetoric about these child sex trafficking rings and particularly Epstein, it's unbelievable that they are now just rug pulling us like this. I can't believe it.
Yeah, and I agree with you at this point of like take a swing. I think that's a problem with our justice system, the way that it's set up, that has always troubled me, which is that, prosecutors, the way that their success is measured is on conviction rates. And so because of that, they're very hesitant to take cases that isn't almost a guaranteed conviction, which, if you look at the Sean Combs case, like I'm pleased that the Southern District of New York did prosecute that case,
right?
Because it shined a light on what he was really doing. And I think we all know the truth, whether or not he was convicted of sex trafficking, we see that he was engaged in egregious abusive behavior. But unfortunately, I think they're getting a lot of flack for not getting a slam dunk conviction. And I think that's wrong. I think they should be praised for doing the right thing and investigating crimes where they had a lot of evidence for it. And we need to keep following up on educating the public on what coercion means. Like, because now we understand that the jury does understand that. So let's do the work of helping them understand that, because Epstein engaged in the same kind of behavior. I am not aware of any reports that Epstein was violent. Maybe he was, but that's not what I'm aware of. My understanding of his method was to lure vulnerable, often older teenage women, girls and young women who were poor and needed something or wanted something or were vulnerable in some way or had a dream. And he sold them a line. He promised them the world and convinced them to go along with something that, and then they were too deep and he threatened them. That's the same method at its core that Sean Combs was engaged in. And there wasn't this shackled with chains and violence. And yet we understand Epstein is a predator. So I agree with you that even if there is evidence that there are these at least 6 men or women that participated in exploitation of children, they should be prosecuted. And we should do our best to hold them accountable, because that is the responsibility of our institutions. And I think it goes to the core of what everyone, particularly the MAGA movement, and I just think, everyone in this country is frustrated with at this current moment, is this concept of people of power having a different set of rules, right? That people in power are able to exploit and that they get cover from institutions and from their powerful friends. And so I think if this administration wants to address that and show their constituents and show the American people that this administration doesn't stand for that, and that it does stand for justice for all, then they should be rigorously prosecuting anyone they have evidence of criminal activity related to Epstein. They should not be pardoning Sean Combs because there's really no reason for it except his celebrity. Why? Many people commit crimes like Sean Combs every day. Why is he getting a pardon just because he's famous? That doesn't sit right with me. And I'm not hearing an explanation that makes any sense for that. So yeah, I agree with you. I think we need to no longer allow protections for the elite, especially at the exploitation of the vulnerable.
And it's particularly important because the elite have power. They drive policy. They drive culture. They drive the corporate world. They are driving, so many of the technological expansions that we're seeing right now. And so the fact that they can just get away with this, one of the tricks of the Trump administration is to trot out a headline every couple weeks of some low-level trailer park sex trafficking ring in some podunk county, which is great. I mean, if they are taking out some of those low-level sex traffickers, that's not a bad thing. But it's kind of like going after the strung-out drug dealer on the playground who is being controlled by the cartels. Like, they're trying to claim those as wins. They're prosecuting or going after these lower level rings that might not even be connected to some of the larger ones, but they're completely ignoring this like massive infrastructure that brings in Alan Dershowitz and Ken Starr and the Clintons and the Trumps and foreign diplomats and judges, heads of state, billionaires, oligarchs, like all of them in these strange ways connected to these networks. And it's like that. I mean, that is like the major apparatus, yet they always get away with it. And it's bipartisan, right, Dani? We don't want to just pick on the Trump administration, although he does have a strange habit of like really, really helping sex traffickers. The Biden administration didn't necessarily go after them. Like, Trump's bizarre aid and abetting is just beyond. It seems like some type of grooming in and of itself to me, to be honest. Like, he's grooming us to just eat it. Right? Like, he's saying, we know it, you know it, they're going to get away with it. And I think it's funny. And I'm going to shove it in your face. That's what I feel when I see the Trump administration helping the Tates or winking about pardoning Sean Combs. To me, it's a middle finger. It's like, you are the little people. You are the slaves. We're the rulers, and we'll do whatever we want. That's what I don't like about it. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm frustrated with is I think often this administration is responding to a common frustration, which is that the cancel culture frustration, that people are canceled or targeted for their beliefs. And I think being frustrated with that is reasonable. But that is not related to the Tates, for example. The Tates are not being prosecuted for their beliefs or their speech. They're being prosecuted in two different countries for violent acts of sexual abuse of women. So I think it's time for us all, and including this administration, but all of us in America, to stop being so reactionary and stop letting because what this does is it lets like the Tates throw a one-liner and you just grab on. It's like, if they say I'm being targeted for my speech, then everyone automatically believes it. I think we're past that. I think we should stop being reactionary. We are all intelligent. We can look a little deeper than a blurb, a headline, a clickbait, because unfortunately that allows predators to manipulate the masses with clickbait and with, they're going to appeal to what they know you care about and you're not going to dig any deeper. I think that's insulting to all of us to think that we can't, do a Google search and look up what the Tates have actually said and done over the course of many years that reveal what looks like criminal activity. So that's what I hope. I hope this administration sees that we're kind of over the reactionary cancel culture stuff. That's been largely corrected, I think, which is a good thing. And now it's time to actually hold accountable those who are exploiting people and engaged in sex trafficking. And particularly what the public wants is accountability for people in power. And that's the Tate brothers.
That's right. Nautical on the live chat. Love this comment. We know they are lying. They know they are lying. They know we know they are lying. We know they know we know they are lying, but they are still lying. Solzhenitsyn, great quote. Thank you, Nautical, for that. You do get the sense of that, where at this point it's kind of right in our faces. Today we're talking to Dani Pinter. She is an amazing advocate representing some of the Tate victims. She's the Senior Vice President and Director of the Law Center for the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. It is linked up in the show notes. Please support their efforts. Nonpartisan End Sexual Exploitation When we come back, we're going to talk about quick update on the Tate case. There's not a lot that is new to report. However, that's good news. It means some of these cases are moving along, even though they've desperately been trying to get them thrown out off the news headlines. They are moving forward. And then we're going to get into the need for buyer accountability. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then this disturbing AI app aimed at your children, allowing people to kiss anyone they want. This is the AI Kiss and AI Hug apps on the Apple App Store and Google Play. They are marketed as fun, easy, and meant for everyone, including children, but they could be a severe violation of someone's boundaries and are quite creepy. So we're going to be talking about that, coming after our kids in every which way with Dani Pinter, and also a discussion about kind of the roots of this, this entire thing, the culture of pornography in this country and why that is damaging to the human spirit and soul and our culture. So we're going to get into that when we come back right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Our friends over at Native Path. Hey, you guys know that my morning routine, one of the ways I stay healthy, almost 50 years old. I can't believe that I am almost halfway through a natural life. And one of the ways that I maintain a pain-free lifestyle and great hair, nails, and skin. Also, it's just a great way to restore collagen. You guys know it is my favorite, Native Path collagen. Every single morning in my coffee, it is a must. I use Native Path collagen. Devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy uses Native Path collagen for his joint pain. It has helped him in so many ways. And I believe every person over the age of 40 should be implementing collagen into their diet on a regular basis. Reduces inflammation. There are so many good outcomes from that daily use of collagen. And Native Path collagen is the best on the market. It dissolves instantly. It has absolutely no taste. It is protein. It's beef derived, and it is absolutely clean. The best part, it is the best price point that you will find on collagen anywhere in the market. You won't find these price points at the drugstore. You won't find these price points at your discount grocery center. It is the best collagen for the best price, and you can only get it at getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. That's getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. Use that joy promo code for an additional 45% off. It's the only way you're going to get that stock up sale price. And I just recommend it. I've been using collagen for years. People ask me, how do you stay so young and vibrant, Shannon? And one of my secrets is, of course, Native Path collagen. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. I don't know if you guys have seen the headlines, but we're going to be diving into this next week. Donald Trump preparing an executive order to open up your 401k up to $12 trillion in private funds, Americans' retirement investments, to shady private equity and cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. The scariest part about this is that you might not even know that your funds now have been opened up to investments in some of these type of operations, that your investments could be converted. Even if you know about this, there might not even be a way for you to get out of it. This is why the self-directed IRA backed by gold and silver is so incredibly important. The only company that I trust is Colonial Metals Group. Not only do I purchase my physical gold and silver from Colonial Metals Group, but I also have an individual self-directed IRA that is backed by physical gold and silver. This is not paper gold and silver. It's the real thing. And the process was so surprisingly easy, so quick. You can do it in less than a couple days. I love the folks over at Colonial Metals Group. They don't do pressure selling. They don't try to manipulate you. They don't use fear selling. They just meet you right where you are, lay out all of the options. If you have a 401k, if you have an IRA, because they're opening up to IRA as well with this executive order, if you have saved your entire life and you are concerned that that is going to be erased by some of these new executive orders and legislation, now is the time, guys. Do not wait have that conversation. There's an amazing rep standing by. Tish was my girl. She's amazing. Just go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That is colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Make sure you tell them that Shannon Joy sent you, and you can get on the path to backing up your retirement with our friends at Colonial Metals Group. Without further ado, let's welcome back into the Joy Virtual Studio, Dani Pinter. Dani, let's speak just briefly. I know there's not a lot to update with the Tate case, but you are representing some of those Tate victims, and I think this can lead us into the discussion of the grooming process, starting with desensitizing children at a young age through the proliferation of pornography, the exposure to pornography on media apps and apps like the AI Hugs and the AI Kiss. That's kind of building it as the root infrastructure of what we're dealing with today, making women and children vulnerable to the lover boy method deployed by the Tate Pimps, and also making juries and judges and people who are prosecuting vulnerable and unaware of how demeaning and coercive and violent these tactics are. So let's start with just an update, and then we'll move into that broader context.
Yeah, so currently the Tates are still being prosecuted in Romania. They keep trying to act like that case doesn't exist anymore, but it does. They recently did a judicial check-in. So the strangeness is Romania is very quiet and that their system is very closed. So, in America, we'd be able to kind of look up on a court docket every update in a criminal case, and the media would be heavily reporting on it. And that's just not how they do it in Romania. Those documents are sealed from the public very often, and they've just been very quiet. So I can't claim to understand the Romanian system, but I do understand that because of that, the Tate brothers are able to spin the narrative to their advantage. But the truth is that case is ongoing. Our client provided additional testimony to repair the deficiencies that were identified in the indictment. And it was reported on and kind of all over Twitter a few weeks ago that another victim gave her statement again to kind of correct the issues that were identified before. So if just as a recap, there are two investigations going on in Romania. One which involves my client and 7 named victims, and a second investigation that involves over 30 victims and 2 minors. The first investigation went all the way through the pretrial phase where discovery and evidence was presented to see what would be admitted and ready for trial. And that was ordered to go to trial, and the Tate brothers appealed it. And the appeals court found that 3 pieces of evidence were improperly conducted or gathered. For example, 1, the Tate brothers, when initially interviewed, were not made aware that they were suspects. They were informed that they were just witnesses, which is improper. And it was correct that they should go back, strike that interview, and re-interview them with their full rights informed.
Sure.
Then the other 2 pieces of evidence were interviews of 2 victims where the defense didn't get an opportunity to be present. Again, I think that was right and easy to remedy. And my understanding is that Romania has now gathered those 2 pieces of testimony again with the defense present. So now everything should be ready to go. None of the text messages were excluded. The judge didn't find that there was any fake evidence, for example, or find that any of the devices were improperly seized or gathered. Every other piece of evidence was found to be gathered in the correct manner and was upheld as authentic and ready to be admitted into evidence. It was just those 3 pieces of testimonial evidence, and the appeals court just instructed the prosecutors, go back, redo that, and refile your indictment. So I hope that we see that indictment be refiled, and in the meantime, that investigation and prosecution is ongoing. And similarly, in the UK, there is an open prosecution that is just waiting for the Romanian case to be finished. And then the Romanian court has already ruled that they will extradite the brothers to the UK for them to face justice there. So it's unfortunate that we're sort of in this holding pattern, but those investigations are ongoing.
Okay. And to be clear, there were, I believe, thousands of pieces of evidence entered in. So the fact that there was only 4 that they had to scrutinize, I think, is a testament to the prosecution and the due diligence that was paid by investigators and prosecutors regarding the Romanian case. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So any type of dismissal by the Tate brothers to make you think that this isn't very serious, incredibly serious. And I believe dozens of charges between Romania and the UK, 60, 70 named victims, Dani. Am I right about that?
I'll just be conservative, and the number I'm aware of is 45. So I think there's, 35-ish victims in Romania. And then, we have various victims in the UK. It's the UK has 22 counts for which they are prosecuting the Tate brothers for, but they haven't told us how many victims that pertains to. So there's some ambiguity there.
Okay. And then there was a case. The reason I have been saying 3 countries because of the case in Nevada of Andrew Tate's ex-girlfriend who filed, I don't know if they were criminal charges or civil charges.
Yes, Bree Stern, she's an American citizen. I think she filed California. And recently, the Tate brothers have been, waving around evidence that there's not going to be a prosecution, which doesn't really mean much. There was never an announced prosecution. She filed a report. When you file a police report, the prosecutors and that, the state attorney, for example, in that jurisdiction will decide whether or not to prosecute. And we know that for rape cases, they rarely prosecute, right? It doesn't matter. There could be a lot of evidence, but if, for whatever reason, the prosecution doesn't think they have 100% chance of getting a conviction, they're just not going to prosecute. That's just discretionary. And like I said, I don't think it means a lot. Okay. It's not like that's very different. I just want to point out than a prosecutor announcing a prosecution, saying they're proceeding with charges, and then dropping them, right? Like that might be shocking and controversial. But the fact that a police report was filed and there's going to be no action on it is not news. Okay. She is moving forward with a civil case because she alleged that she was violently beat by Andrew Tate and strangled in the course of a sexual encounter in California.
I don't know how that is in criminal, but I hear what you're saying. Is there any movement in Florida, Attorney General Utmeyer? Do you think that there will be any further activity there, potential prostrong?
I don't know. I mean, they don't share that information, which is proper. As a state, they're going to be very hamstrung by their jurisdiction, right? They can only prosecute crimes that occurred in Florida. So we'll see. We'll see if they did any criminal activity in Florida. I'm encouraged that investigation is ongoing as well.
Yeah, that was one of the best things that happened all year for me. They flew in on a private jet, met by Roger Stone with cigars for the Tate brothers. They were prepared to set up camp right next to Mar-a-Lago and do whatever it is that they do. All reports indicated that they were never going to go back to Romania. They wanted to stay there. And literally, Ron DeSantis comes out and is like, yeah, not in this state. And then Utmeyer comes out and says, yeah, we're investigating you right now. They hightailed it out of Florida so fast that it would make your head spin. And then were quickly sent back to Romania. It was just brilliant. Really, we have so few wins these days in the U.S.
Well, and that's the kind of response you want when someone brags about being violent against women. They should not be receiving a warm welcome. It should be a cold reception. Right. And so I was proud of my home state of Florida for giving them that.
Absolutely. Well, this is why I can never be objective about Ron DeSantis ever again. So, if I do political analysis and it involves Ron DeSantis, just because of that, I have a knee jerk, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. So take it all with a grain of salt, guys. I like the guy. We're talking to Dani Pinter. She is the Senior Vice President and Director of the Law Center for the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Let's talk about the need for sex buyer accountability and the understanding of the tactics and techniques of grooming of young kids here in the country, using access to pornography and the apps and AI and this expansion of technology, making children not only vulnerable to sexual exploitation, but also as adults anesthetized to sexual exploitation when they see it, whether they're a teacher, a doctor, a required reporter, a prosecutor, a judge, a member of a jury, a politician. There is a very real need for an understanding about these methods, and particularly an understanding of why it's so important to not only go after the pimps and the traffickers, but to go after the buyers as well. So I'm going to set you up there, Dani. And I hope that you will just use this time to kind of explain where you are, why this is important, how it all ties together.
Yeah, so starting with buyer accountability, it's all about demand, and do we actually want to curb exploitation and trafficking? Because very often we're focused on prosecuting traffickers, which is good. But the reality is that traffickers are usually only doing this because it makes money. There's a demand for it. They know that they can sell women and children to men easily and for a lot of money. If there weren't men in every community, in every neighborhood, every day willing to buy women and children, sex traffickers wouldn't be in business. They'd be doing some other crime. So that's the reality we have to confront. And if we want to stop sex trafficking, we need to reduce demand. And it is a crime to participate in prostitution from the buying side, even if it's an adult. And you can even prosecute federally and in a lot of states a buyer for sex trafficking if they're purchasing a child, because they're the ones engaged in the commercialized sex act with a child, which is criminalized. So that's what we really believe we want to see happen. We want to see that become a priority at the highest level of the federal government and anywhere where we are funding and setting out priorities for prosecutions and what we want our law enforcement to focus on. Stop just doing these stings and being really excited about the rescues while you let the buyers walk away, because we see that happen all the time. They need to be rounded up and taken to prison and face real consequences too.
Do you have any examples of buyers that have been prosecuted, buyers that have been put in prison, and where are those examples? And the other thing I wanted to ask you is kind of about the scope of this. You mentioned every town, every village, every county. And I think people don't want to consider that. They think about it as kind of a seedy underworld kind of thing, but they don't imagine that the well-known pastor or the well-known judge or the popular politician or people in like higher echelons of society could be engaging in these things and then also covering up for one another. I mean, there are some allegations just right here in the Finger Lakes region, Buffalo area, even in Monroe County, that I've been keeping an eye on for the past couple of years that are so disturbing to me. Cases that haven't been adjudicated, witnesses that have been threatened and frightened out of bringing charges. Like how how ubiquitous is this, do you think, in the counties across the country, and not only the trafficking, but also then the proliferation of child pornography, which is then sold on the internet?
Yeah. So starting with buyer prosecutions, I'm from Florida, so I'm particularly familiar with Florida's efforts at anti-trafficking, and I think that even objectively, Florida is a leader in the anti-trafficking space. And so I was pleased to see that James Uthmeyer, since he's taken control of the AG's office, has done several stings targeting buyers who purchase kids. So they've done quite a few, where I think in one, there was over 20 men who were arrested for purchasing sex from a child. And, and if you look at the profile, these are everyday guys, right? Like these are a fireman, a nurse, a lawyer, a doctor, routinely. And I know that this does happen from time to time, and I want to see it happen more. And in the state of Maine, we were part of passing a piece of legislation that increased the penalties against sex buyers while decreasing the penalties for the women and getting them into services. Because very often, historically, we've seen the women get taken to jail, the guys get, just literally allowed to leave. Like often they're not even arrested. And so this is to reverse that, where the men are going to now be deterred by potentially very serious criminal charges, and the women who we know often are victims of trafficking, instead of getting a rap sheet, let's get them services. So we're very proud of that. We know that the state of Texas, we also supported and assisted with them increasing the penalties against sex buyer to a felony for the first offense. And that's how you do real deterrence, because the reality is sex buyers are often people of means and normal everyday people. So if someone is a lawyer or someone is a doctor and they know that they could literally pick up a felony charge for engaging in prostitution, they're just not going to do it. That's the truth. Mm-hmm. The seedy underworld criminals are going to still do crimes. The way that we actually shut this down is by the people who are engaging in society, making it untenable for them. And you can do that by actually prosecuting these crimes against them and make them serious offenses, because they just will stop doing it. And so, we're very pleased about that.
Dani, you're blowing my mind that buyers have not been prosecuted in the first place. Like this is blowing my mind. Like
yeah.
could that happen? And we're only talking about 3 states, Florida, Maine, Texas, who are making changes to this. Like, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable to me.
Yeah, if you talk to anyone in the human trafficking space, they know exactly what I'm talking about. That, the police officers often, if it's just like your average, local police officer, they maybe are not trained on sex trafficking. They maybe got, an
Uh-oh. Looks like we lost Dani. We lost her feed there. And so we're going to, there she is. Okay, we lost you for just a second. Restart. There we go. Sorry about that.
Sorry. So can you hear me?
You look great. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah. So, the local police officer may not have the training, and maybe
now we
a
lost
community
the audio.
Oh, am I back? Okay. Yeah. So they may have got a complaint, right? Maybe a community member is complaining about they're seeing women in prostitution. So they go bring those women to jail. And if they see the guys, they just say, "Hey, get out of here, buddy." And that happens constantly. And that is really a travesty, because they're the ones that are feeding the demand for what we know is really heinous exploitation.
You're not saying that if a sting is conducted and children are involved, they let the men go?
Not usually when there's children involved. No, usually this is involving adult victims. But sometimes the police officers aren't even actually seeing, like, they might not even check the ages. Like, we have had reports where they're just seeing women in prostitution, they're blinded to it, and these could be teenagers, and sometimes they are, and sometimes these girls get taken to jail too. So, I mean, if there's a sting conducted with the intent of entrapping someone, soliciting a minor, for example, that guy's not going away. Okay. But often, if it's a prostitution sting, the police officers aren't necessarily even considering that some of these women are potentially minors, or even viewing them as victims in the first place. So that happens very often when there's sort of this mindset that prostitution, these women are not victims. That's the mistake often that's made.
So let's move to the child sex trafficking and the scope in the country. Yeah. And one of the common sentiments that I hear is that, tragically, judges, family courts, prosecutors, attorneys protect this system, and there is corruption within the local level and counties, particularly across the country, that allow this to perpetuate, and in some cases they are part of this system. And these are just some of the testimonies that I've heard. What is your thought on that? And do you think that could be in place?
Yeah, I think people don't realize how prolific sex buying is, and how many men actually do engage in prostitution in their own communities. For example, the most common brothel that is existing in basically every city has a strip mall or a shopping center with a massage parlor that looks a little sketchy. Those are often really just brothels where these women are forced to engage and provide, happy ending massages that are really just sex acts. And I mean, there's a website called rubmax.com. You and I, we never hear about that website, but every sex buyer knows about it. You can go on that website and find a massage parlor that offers sexual services in every single city, and it'll tell you where they are, what kind of services they provide. They rate the women. It's really gross. So it's everywhere, and if you look at some of these civil cases now against these apps, to your point, this could be your pastor, this could be, the teacher in the local school. They know they can get on these dating apps, they can get on WhatsApp and Snapchat and find a child to purchase. That's just the truth. I'm aware of a case right now against Grindr where, a handicapped boy was almost immediately assaulted by 4 men the day he joined the Grindr app. And the problem in my mind is that these apps know that they are facilitating the abuse and exploitation of children, and they don't care. And at times they even facilitate it because it makes them a lot of money, and they can't be held accountable right now, or it's very difficult to hold them accountable because of a federal law called Section 230 that provides them pretty broad immunity. So in my mind, I want to see some more high level accountability for these tech companies.
Yes.
Because to your point, we can go and arrest individual perpetrators, but how you actually stop the systemic abuse is moving up the chain to like a large corporation, for example, that is hosting hundreds of thousands of predators on their app. They shouldn't be able to do that. And that's how we reduce what is becoming an exploding exploitation problem, where children are literally being exploited by the thousands. Every single one of them has a phone and they're getting solicited daily. And
Yes.
we get into exposure pornography, which I think is grooming an entire generation.
Yes, I will tell you, I had a friend, really scary story. Their child was, as some children will do, exploring, and they get to a certain age on the internet. They were contacted, emailed by a person pretending to be a young person and asking them to send a picture. And if they would, then they would send another picture of something happened, and actually coerce this child into taking a picture of their face and their body and sending it, and then immediately attacked them and was like, thank God they went to, their parents and told them about it, but it was like, do this, do that, send me money, or else I'm going to put this up all over social media. This is like a young child. It's crazy.
This is happening, and I can't even tell you this is happening every day. Like it's actually like I would consider this an emergency. There is one, I'll give you two really quick examples. One is a state legislator in South Carolina. So this is a well-connected man. He's like a Christian, great family. His son was like an all-star football player, has the same kind of contact, thinks he's talking to a teenage boy, gets extorted. Literally, the dad goes into his son's room the next morning. He's dead. Within hours, this child went from meeting this person to committing suicide because the extortion got so extreme. We represent two 13-year-old boys, exact scenario.
No.
They thought they were talking to a 16-year-old girl who sent a nude photo on Snapchat, coerced them to send, so then invited them to send it, then blackmailed them with that photo into sending more. It circulated all over Twitter, hundreds of thousands of views. The child reached out to Twitter, told them it was child pornography, which is illegal and banned. Twitter said, we reviewed the content, not taking it down.
No.
Yes. So we're suing Twitter for that. And of course, so far they've gotten 230 immunity. We're appealing that because we believe that cannot go on. Like this kind of immunity for these tech companies is enabling literally what I would consider a national, international emergency of kids being targeted exactly how you described.
That's unbelievable. I got a couple emails saying like, very nasty, saying we saw the pictures of what you did, like trying to trick me into thinking I did something, and we're going to post them all over the internet and this and that. And so I sent it to my IT guy. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I can't, but if the point though is if anyone has ever done anything like years ago on the internet, like they could be very vulnerable, be like, oh my gosh, did I send a sexy picture to my boyfriend or my husband? Or did, there could be things that are done within the confines of marriage that people wouldn't want out there that can be grabbed and exploited. I mean, this is like crazy. This is crazy, Dani. Oh, just horrifying. Well, let's talk about that app that you, and we linked this in the show notes, I believe. This app, it's AI Kiss and AI Hug, targeted to children. It's on the Apple App Store and Google Play. What's up with this?
Yeah, so this is just yet another strange iteration of AI and another danger, and why we can't just let these tech companies do whatever they want without any kind of precautions or regulations or accountability. So this app someone could take a picture. For example, I could take a picture of you, put it in a picture of me, put it into this AI generator, and it will create the most realistic looking video you've ever seen of us making out. And it looks completely real. And it's like a stalker's dream. And also it's targeted towards kids and it's sweeping through schools. And can't you just imagine middle schoolers? They wouldn't be able to resist. But it is so dangerous because these kids are going to now feel like they can really invade the privacy and boundaries of another person. It's going to create this sense of entitlement over other people. And as the victim of this, how violating, like you don't even have control over your own image and someone can distribute what looks like you're making out with someone. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. So someone could take pictures. That's a violation of name, image, likeness. Like they can't.
I agree.
That's huge. I'm surprised there aren't more headlines about that. And
and this is why you see Senator Hawley just introduced this bill that would prohibit, copyright infringement within AI. So, example, you couldn't use someone's image without authorization to feed into your AI generator. I think that's brilliant. We need regulations like that. Otherwise, you're going to get unbelievable abuse, and we won't be able to believe what we see with our own eyes. I think we're not concerned enough about AI.
Absolutely. And for someone, like myself, who's in the public eye, and people who are controversial, politicians, media people like yourself who are, out there advocating. I mean, this could be used to trick people into it's, horrifying, absolutely horrifying. Dani, thank you so much for being with us today and for all of the work that you're doing. Like the scope of your work is unbelievable. And there's so few organizations like yours, unsexualexploitation.org, out there who are really tackling these issues. You must come on a regular basis to update us on all of these type of things. I love knowing that you are out there and you're keeping an eye on these things and you're helping to protect kids. Is there anything that you want to end on, anything we missed in this conversation that you think is important that you want to reiterate to the audience? And then please let them know how they can help you and support your organization.
Yeah, so just one thing I'll add that people probably don't realize is we do a lot of public policy and corporate advocacy, and we engage the public. So if you are a parent or you're a concerned citizen who cares about, these apps doing a certain thing, or you want to support a bill at Congress, please come to our website because we'll create a quick action. We have these actions where, like, within 2 clicks, you can send a letter to your Congress member, or you can send an email to the CEO of a tech company saying you don't like that they aren't protecting kids on their apps. So please engage with us on that. We have seen the power of grassroots engagement, and that does affect change. So please join us, and just know that I'm a parent, we're parents too, and we care so much about this, and we want to hear from you. So Absolutely. Please visit our website. And I'll definitely come back on, Shannon. Thanks for talking about this.
Okay, you're the best. You're the best. Dani Pinter, please support this organization, guys, and sexualexploitation.org. It's true. Our kids are so vulnerable right now. The expansion of AI and technology, they don't understand the risks. Really disturbing stuff. I think that was, every so often I have the jaw-dropping interviews where I'm like flabbergasted. And this one with Dani, there were multiple times throughout this interview where I'm shocked that it has gotten this bad in this country. And the fact that we are being groomed and anesthetized by this administration, by the President of the United States of America, to accept that the perpetrators are out there. They're incredibly powerful. They can get away with whatever they want, and they can even get a pardon from the President of the United States of America. This is grooming in and of itself. It is the grooming of a nation, of all of us collectively as a culture, to accept this. And we have to resist that every single day and say no and call him out. This is easy. It is not good enough for us to simply go after the predators and the traffickers and the pimps. It is not good enough that we get a little win here and there. It's outrageous that this president has covered up for the Epstein clients. It's outrageous that this president has covered up and aided and abetted the Tates. It's outrageous that this president is looking to pardon Sean Diddy Combs. It's outrageous. And we shouldn't accept it, and we should speak up about it. And I hope that more of my colleagues, particularly in right-wing news media, right? Left-wing news media and independent media, I get it. But in right-wing news media, many of these commentators purport to be Christians. They purport to be ethical. They purport to be family men and members of conservative organizations, right? How dare you turn away and ignore this president while he does this? This is an easy one. This is low-hanging fruit. This is a softball. They need to get it right. All right, guys, thank you so much for being with us today here on the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you so much to Inez Andy Cyrus. Amazing production job this week. Our sponsors, Colonial Metals Group, the satellite phone store, Native Path, collagen, hydrate, creatine, protein. We love all of it at the Joy family household. And of course, our good friend Dom Polano of PCM and Associates. Dom was the very first advertiser and sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show 12 years ago. He's a great friend. He's my financial advisor. If you are in the markets, if you have a 401k or an IRA and you want a financial planner and advisor who understands your perspective, who gets it, so to speak, and shares your values, you are going to love Dom Polano. He has taken such good care of not only my finances, but also my family's. And he is opening up his practice to everyone across the United States of America. So please go to PCMPolano.com. That's his website, PCMPolano.com. There's an 800 number there. Call him and have a conversation and consider switching to a financial advisor who you can trust. He's the guy I trust, Dom Polano of PCM and Associates. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. We'll be back not tomorrow, on Monday, to do it all again right here in the Shannon Joy Show.